What were we talking about before we hit record? I felt like something was interesting. We were talking about, we don't need to use names, but let's just talk treadmill calibration. Treadmill.
Yes.
It's just an interesting topic. A treadmill, like building a false sense of confidence or a false sense of insecurity, depending on the calibration, depending on certain factors. You may run workouts on the treadmill that you can't even come close to duplicating outside on real terrain. Or you may be slow as heck on the treadmill and then go outside and run faster. And most of it has nothing to do with your actual fitness and everything to do with how the treadmill is actually calibrated compared to real life running. And I just think it's an interesting thing because how many treadmills are actually probably exactly accurate? What do you think?
I don't know if you can be. Because it's all based off of, you have to have an equation to start with. It has to be calibrated against something. You have to choose a starting point, and the starting point is chosen by a human. So I don't know. You ready for an old man Kraker rant?
Yeah, I would love one. It's been a while.
This is something I've been thinking about lately because you hear athletes get sidetracked by the wrong thing because they put faith in the wrong metric. But when GPS watches first came out, no one trusted them, or you knew that they were inherently flawed. And when heart rate monitors came out, every single time that for example, my freshman year down in North Carolina, we'd wear heart rate monitors on the track for certain efforts. And you had to be sitting there counting with your finger on your wrist or on your neck your heart rate, and you'd get 2 data points and write that down. It was generally during time trials or big efforts, but your partner would watch your watch, and you would be counting, and then you'd write them both down. And because people didn't trust it. And then because technology got really good, we got used to really trusting technology. And watches and phones and everything became so accurate that now they're considered infallible. And so suddenly you have these things like people saying, my Whoop says I can't train today, so I'm not. Or I'm supposed to have a recovery day, but my Whoop says my heart rate variability is great, so I went hard again. Or my GPS said it was long, so the course was mismeasured. Or my treadmill said I'm moving way faster than I am, so I'm ready to PR. Or my treadmill says that I was really slow today. And we've come to be so trustworthy of technology that we forget that not all technology is trustworthy.
Don't get me started on my watch, I ran on the treadmill and my watch says 6.3 miles, but the treadmill says 6.9 miles. Which one is accurate? What do you think is accurate? Well, neither of them. But you have to go with the treadmill if you're running on the treadmill because the technology is simply not there for your watch to guess how far you ran on the treadmill. You always go with what the treadmill says, even though we just told you the treadmill is inaccurate. This actually brings up an interesting thing. I was chatting with an athlete on an athlete call last week. I'll use his first name, Jonathan. And Jonathan, he went on a cruise with his family. And sort of didn't really train. I think he ran once or twice in, 7 or 9 days. Let's call it fell off the wagon a bit. And Jonathan takes pretty good care of himself. He doesn't really drink or do whatever. And he wears his Whoop strap or his Garmin Recovery, and he notes what they say. And he sent me the data from this after his cruise. And basically, he was training full on before the cruise. His recovery data looked pretty good on his Whoop or his Garmin. Then he goes on this cruise. He basically doesn't train, but he has drinks every night. He stays up later than he should. And his Whoop recovery just tanks, as if he was in a full-blown 100-mile-a-week training block. And the dude ran like 6 miles that week, maybe put in an hour of work. And it looked like he might as well have been in the middle of the Leadville 100 and recovering from that. And all it was lifestyle. And then as soon as he got back up, his graph started slowly climbing back up. He was back to training, but like just taking care of himself. And I found that super interesting. It was like data from the last ultra he had done, and basically the recovery afterwards was the equivalent of him going on vacation, boozing every night, and not taking care of himself. That's fascinating to me, if that data is accurate.
Right.
Do you buy into it?
Yeah. And it highlights the fact that this is dumb tech. it's smart dumb tech, not smart tech. Like there's dumb AI and there's smart AI. So this is technology built on the if this, then that principle. If heart rate drops, then it means this. If it rises, then it means this. It can't be intuitive and say, if it drops because today during the day we had an intense workout, then we interpret it as this. But if we didn't work out and we drank, and as a result, we didn't stay in a REM cycle and we had worse sleep, then that it can't do that. All it does is if heart rate, then recovery. And stress is stress, but it's not to be interpreted the exact same way.
Well, stress.
Yes, you shouldn't exist on no sleep when you're not stressed, but it doesn't mean you can't hit the ground the next day. Versus an ultra means you can't hit the ground the next day.
Well, metabolic stress is metabolic stress, and if his heart rate was elevated 10 beats a minute at night because he was boozing, you're right, the watch or Whoop doesn't know any different. But also, structural damage is structural damage, which goes along with that in a training cycle, and he was taking none, right? And so even though he had an elevated heart rate most nights of sleep, he potentially could go out and rock a workout because lack of demand structurally makes up for over demand aerobically. You know, instead of sleeping at 45 beats a minute, he was sleeping at 58 beats a minute or whatever it is. So it's just very interesting. So it probably falls short there, but nonetheless, it's just fascinating data. You can do with it what you will.
It is.
Yeah.
And speaking of fascinating data,
yeah,
you and I talked briefly about that Koros article about Jakob Ingebrigtsen.
Yeah.
He wore his watch and his heart rate monitor for basically his whole season, but they showed data about his training and then about the Olympic final in the 1500 meter and the 5K, showing what zones he was in, showing how he was racing, showing how gradual his spike of everything was, how he was just the smoothest racer in there. But what I found interesting is that he said he started his watch when he began his warm-up, and he stopped it after the line, after the finish line.
I did not know that.
And so you get to see, he's not at the start line hitting start. It's one continuous workout on his watch. And so you get to see how his warm-up progresses him up through the stages. And then what happens when he finishes his warm-up is sitting in the holding area, and then when he's announced out, and then at the start line. And it was really cool to see how smooth he is and dialed, but really relieving and almost fun for me to see that when they called his name as he was standing in the tunnel, he got a heart rate spike. That as they started milling around, he was in the warm-up area just steady, and as he's standing in the tunnel waiting, his heart rate started spiking, and when he was called and came out, he had a huge blip. He rose like 10 to 15 beats per minute just in anticipation and nerves. And this is the calmest racer we've probably ever seen since maybe Mo Farah.
At least on the outside.
And on the outside, calmest looking, calmest pacing, calmest execution in that 5K. But his heart rate skyrocketed with nerves and adrenaline right before the start. And that was really cool to see.
Okay, so then question. So I saw just the data. Must have been from when this 5K started to ended. It was like 173 average, and his heart rate, his lactate threshold was technically 174 or something. He didn't even average above his lactate threshold, I thought, for the 5K, which again is mind-blowing. We talked about that. His lactate threshold... Okay, well, that doesn't matter. But point being, how high did he get his heart rate in the warm-up? Like, I firmly believe in truly making decent pushes in your warm-up to start working through the gears, buffering a little bit of lactate so that it's open when the gun starts. Do you remember what spikes he would get in his warm-up?
I don't remember the number.
Okay.
No, I don't. I know that he broke aerobic threshold standing still when they were doing call-ups.
Like he was in the 130s or 40s or something for him?
Yeah, I think he was standing in the 30s and it spiked to like 50 or something like that.
Like 150 standing
just
still.
Because of adrenaline.
Isn't that amazing? I remember one of the Diamond League...
or 48 or something.
Diamond League meets, Jared Nagoose had a heart rate monitor on, and they had been standing at the line for a good bit, and he was one they had pegged up with their Polar or their Koros or whatever, and he was at like 128 to 132 just standing there kicking the legs out before the gun goes off. It goes to show these people are human. They're humans.
Yeah.
That is comforting.
Yeah. It was cool to read through all that. And you take it all with a grain of salt, and it's a sponsorship and all of that, but Like your heart rate doesn't lie. And it was cool to see.
All right. What are we doing here today, Brakken? What are we doing here today?
We have some good questions, and we're going to try to get through them without getting long-winded. Now, of course, we're going to at some point if there's a question that needs it, but our goal here is to move through these questions without bogging you down in rabbit holes.
Not possible.
Just for today.
I do have 18 screenshots. Some of these might be two-parters. They add up quick, and so we're just going to clear the cache or attempt to get somewhat close today. We got a 90-minute cap on today's episode on our end, so we're going to see what that gets us. How's that sound?
Love it.
All right. Now, some of these you've actually seen. A lot of times I button hook you on these, and you don't know the pass is coming. But some of these came through. We had an odd number come through official messages on our website this last round, which I found interesting. Like official inquiries messaging through the website, just asking Q&A questions. I don't know what that means, but it's the first time I recall that happening in bulk.
Yeah, it was almost all from like a 3-day stretch. It was like a Friday through Monday stretch. We had a bunch of Q&A questions come in through the weekend. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, again, I don't know what that means. Did an episode hit and people are new to the podcast and went to the website because they don't follow us on Instagram, or were people just feeling official at that time?
All right. Well, either way, this first one's through the website. So this is from Brian. Brian says, it's 2024. Can track and field come up with something other than a Tyvek number that's pinned to a runner's shirt? For your local 5K, that costs $15. It's a good idea, but still sucks. But professional runners? Anyways, just something that's bugged me while watching the racing these last few months. Brian.
This is so annoying to me more than it should be. But yes, this is outrageously antiquated. You have all these brand new advancements in clothing technology to the point where endurance athletes, distance runners, are wearing speed suits on the track. There's no real reason for that other than they're trying to advance technology and eliminate discomfort. I don't even think wind resistance would go into it, but for the sprints, it certainly would. And then they pin on a hard, thick construction paper style number to the front and then stick on stickers onto their sides, onto their thighs, which invariably come halfway or all the way off. And it just, there's no need for it. They don't need to know what number they are. There's only 8 people in the final. We know who they are. Why? Why would we even bother with pinning your name tag to your chest at the Olympics? Have it screen printed on your shirt.
Yeah. 8 inches by 8 inches of thick industrial grade paper that never pins on nicely. Half the people's are on crooked. The numbers get stuck to the thighs on most people because there's not enough room on their shorts. As soon as the gun goes off, they take off. And if you pay attention at the Olympics or at even the trials, you just see stickers flying off of people's legs. Like watch a sprint or like the 400 meters, and there's 8 stickers on the track at the start line because as soon as they put out force, it's gone. You think of the technology we can put into the tiniest little pieces of equipment. It could be a simple bobby pin attached, like a tiny little chip. That's all you would need that could hide right on your waistline. The only justification I can think for the numbers, at least on a level as the Olympics or maybe some of the diamond leagues, is identification via name or something, whether it's for the commentators or you watching at home. Like, I don't know who Jakob Ingebrigtsen is, but there it says it on his bib. But that can easily be changed by mandatory putting it on your country's uniform or whatever. That's a very easy fix. But I can't think of one logical thing other than that. But you could literally clip a microchip the size of a Tic Tac onto you that could do everything that bib does. Wouldn't even need to be that big, I bet. Anyway, so it is silly.
No.
I don't understand it. Well, can you come up with the reason why? What's the reason why? What do you think is their reason why? You can't come up with one.
No, just because it's been done that way. They would say, well, how are we going to get the sponsor and the name and everything onto these jerseys from all these nations? I would say, well, triathlon does it. All these sports that put their name on, it's the same design as what a bib would be. They just put it on the uniform. That's part of what they do. And you can read it just as well. So I don't, it's just how it's been done. And so they keep doing it. But there was no need to have to put your lane assignment on a sticker that you then stick to your leg. No need. We have video-based timing systems. You don't need a tracker. Track and field. We're not going to get off course. Everyone can see you. It's so weird. And then when the Michael Johnson sponsored, what is it, All-Star Track or whatever they're calling it. What's that called?
It's not that, but it's along those lines.
It's this new track league that a super league or whatever. Anyway, they are one of the bullet points for their features of their races was that there will be no bibs. Yeah. I thought that's a weird thing to advertise. And I thought, no, that's a great thing to advertise. Now athletes can have their sponsor front and center, put their name on their singlet wherever they want it. They're going to want it on there so people can see it. But yeah, that is a feature. It's weird.
Although there's something, I mean, maybe because it's all we know, right? But it's something very serious. And all right, it's time when you put the bib on your shirt or on your shorts. Like it's a little bit ceremonious, sort of. But it's only because of our past history doing it. It's not necessary, but it feels very official for all of us because that's all we know. It doesn't need to exist. I'm wondering if it's some sort of like way backup legality, like the timing system fails 3 ways and there's no backup and it's absolutely a last resort to cover their butts to say, no, this guy has this bib with his name on it. If all systems fail, the lights go out in the stadium, the race is completed, they have no fail-safes and they can't rely on identifiers or some other sort of, I don't know, if it's like literally there for the very worst of situations. I don't know. Is it simple as that?
Maybe.
What race was it where the lights went out in the stadium? Was it last year? This year? Do you remember that? I don't remember if it was indoor or outdoor and things went off. I don't remember how that culminated, but a situation like that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, and even that
is a stretch.
There are easier ways around that. Whenever I think about things like this, the thought process I have is if the sport didn't exist and you pitched it as a sport to people, would people get hung up on any of your parts of your sport? And that one would be yes. If you're like, we're going to have this race and we have video timing. And so you can't, like, we can go down to the 100,000ths of a second. It's going to be great. And we're going to pin cardboard to your front so everyone knows it's you. People be like, well, I like this sport thing, but let's not do that. And I was like, no, we'll use safety pins. We don't need pins. We can just put their name on the cloth. They're like, yeah, but this is better. You can take it off. Like, there's no explanation for why you should have to do it.
Yeah. We demand answers, USATF and the governing bodies of the World Track and Field Athletics. We demand them. And local charity.
No more bibs.
And local charity Church 5K. We demand the answer why we need to wear these bibs. Unbelievable.
The only way it makes sense is for local levels where uniforms are not yours. Or you're going to race in a different singlet each week. Olympians aren't sharing like, go grab a medium from the pile and go out and run your 5K. Mm-hmm. No, it's given to you months in advance. You try it on. They give you all the combinations of the uniform you could need. You could just have it sublimated right onto there. You don't have to take your singlet off. Grant Fisher didn't have to then give it over to like Bryce Hoppel to go run his 800. Like, here's team uniform, man. No, everyone keeps their own. It's going to be okay.
I agree. And it does make sense for your local races. The timing chip is in there. There's no video confirmation. You run a local charity 5K with 500 people. It makes perfect sense. There's other options within the shoelace. In college, we used to weave for some of the timing chips. It's literally something that you weaved into your shoe and put it on your shoe, which was not an uncommon thing for us to do. Spartan Race would have it as well.
No.
But I guess you can't mess with someone's foot and shoe wear at that level. That would be a blasphemy.
Yeah. True. Well, we're doing a good job at being short and concise. So on to number 2.
Yes, we are. All right. Next one is from Aprar. This is 2 screenshots, so it might be just a hair longer. Aprar says, hello from Ireland. Massive fan here. Thanks for all the help and motivation. I have a question about shoes, please. Yeah, there goes short and concise again. I have recently started taking my commitment to running seriously. I come at it from a background of weightlifting, Muay Thai, yoga, and Pilates. All activities that have your feet connected to the ground / barefoot. As a result, I am most comfortable being close to the ground as much as possible. I have been running on zero drop shoes, Vivo Barefoot. I love them and enjoy the connection. I wear cushiony socks for a bit of comfort because I run through the city and the streets are sometimes sketchy. I am now considering adding carbon-plated shoes for some of the runs and for my races, especially as races are now increasing in distance. So his questions, he has 2 parts. Is it worth my while to do so? And does the zero drop make me stronger or am I gaining nothing? And then 2, where do I start? Do you have a recommendation? So many brands and I don't have the budget to test a few for now. Should I stick to the 8mm drop or go lower to bridge the gap? I'm going to go do a gait analysis, but I want your opinion first. Thank you and sorry for the length. Best.
Ooh, this is one of those questions where people like to fall in one camp or the other. You're barefoot or you're not barefoot. But my answer is probably going to split the divide here, Kirk.
Okay.
So for brevity's sake, take this one and I'll play cleanup.
What? This is yours for the okay.
Yep.
All right. Here's what I think. I think you asked a great question. It's actually a very good question. There's a lot to dissect here, given your background and now what you're considering. I find, if you're talking just from a pure health injury standpoint, if you change the drop of your shoes too drastically and really commit to now training in this new shoe with a very drastic change in drop from your old shoes, you are much more likely for lower leg overuse injuries or foot injuries to appear. The problem here, that's my opinion, the problem here is that most super shoes are now in the 8mm plus range. It is more difficult to find a super shoe with a 4, 6, or even less than 4 mil drop. For every 10 super shoes that with an 8 mil or more, you have maybe 1 left with a 6 or less, if any, other than by specific brands that I know of. And so my first inkling for you is to make yes, if you're running far, I think there's a benefit to super shoes. I think there's a benefit to carbon plates for performance reasons. I also think there's a benefit depending on the super shoe. Like some super shoes run super cushy and springy like an Alpha Fly. And then some sort of are a harsh ride, but still do their job by propelling you forward. So there's such a scale there that you can't compare like a minimalist shoe and then just claim all super shoes are going to be in the same camp because they aren't by comparison. Long-winded way to say, I would search out some of these shorter heel-to-toe drop shoes that are out there. I believe Ultra does have a version of a super shoe or two now that exists, right? It's going to be zero. I think they might don't they have a shoe or two with a small drop now as well, which goes against their shtick?
They do.
So looking like that nice transition, you're going to have a little more underfoot with whatever Ultra provides. That's ALTRA. And test out the super shoe waters there without a harsh transition. If you've stayed healthy with your Vivo Barefoots and you like how you're feeling overall, I just would be worried if you go to like an Alpha Fly with an 8 or a 10 mil drop. A lot of these shoes all have that. If it's going to be such a different type of mechanic for you that it's going to feel alien and foreign, I would ease into it by looking for a low drop super shoe. Don't worry about anything else. That's the only thing I would focus on when making my first decision in regards to the super shoe. And my firm bias is yes, give them a try because I think you're going to be surprised and happy with the return and maybe how much your legs are saved to keep you available for training with something with a little more stack height. That wasn't brief, sorry, but that's my general thoughts.
Well, I'm not going to be super brief either. So you did a great job. I'm going to answer the first part of the question, which is I come from this background where I like to feel, you need to feel connected. Feet has to have a ton of proprioception. They have to be connected to the ground. You have to be able to move, flex, get traction, all that stuff. I don't want to lose that when I run. And I say, yes, that's fantastic. But we need to realize that in sports, there's doing the activity and there is competing the activity. And they are not the same, and they do not require the same equipment. So the people who say our ancestors didn't wear high drop shoes and it's not the best for you on a daily basis and it weakens your feet and your ankles and all that, they are correct. If you are just running, run in whatever you want to run in. But if you're competing, camera's going again. If you are competing in a sport, you use the equipment that sets you up for the best success for that sport. So Speedos and jammers are not comfortable to wear, but they're best for swimming. But you wouldn't need to wear those just playing in the ocean. Soccer cleats, or football boots, not comfortable. Very confining, very stiff. But you can plant and cut dynamically, which you can't do barefoot. So if you're just kicking around the soccer ball in the backyard with your friends, you should be barefoot. And if you're on the pitch competing, you should have almost too small, snug soccer cleats on. Basketball shoes are not good for you biomechanically. But try playing basketball without them, and you're going to lose some of your ability to stop, start, cut, plant, all that. Running's the same way. But running's one of the only sports you do for exercise and competition at the same time. So you have to have both. Keep doing your thing on your easy days, on your long days, on your recovery days, and then pick the most effective version of that for your one fast day a week in racing, and you're going to have the best of both worlds. You're not going to lose foot strength. You're not going to lose ankle stability or flexion or anything like that. And you're not going to get hurt, most likely. Use it for a smallest percentage of your running possible while still being able to use it in the race. And like Kirk said, find the lowest drop super shoe you can find. If that's the Ultra Vanish, is it the Vanish? Use that. If that is something like... I'm trying to think what would be the lowest drop firm super. It could even be like an Adidas Takumi Sen, where it's just a lower platform shoe, but you're going to be significantly faster in that shoe than
the original
shoes.
The original Vaporfly.
If you want to compete,
if you can find a pair. I agree with
those are even 10.
No, I think they're 6. I believe.
Okay.
But either way, I'm convinced. We need the right tool for the job. And if the job is to run fast and compete and get the most out of your hard work, Vivo Barefoot is not the route to do that. I can say that gladly. As far as competition day goes. You agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, if you look at any major sport, the thing they compete in, they are uncomfortable in.
Yeah.
American football players are uncomfortable in their uniform. Safety helmets are uncomfortable. Baseball shoes, soccer shoes, basketball shoes, volleyball, track and field, all of that is uncomfortable. But it's because it's a tool for the purpose.
Yep.
And so don't worry about that on competition day. Save your comfort and your strength in your feet for your other types of runs.
I like it. And I think non-barefoot type runners or type shoe users do the same thing, and they play the same song and dance with their shoes as well. My easy days and my recovery days, I wear a shoe that gives me no return, which is exactly what I do. And then on the days that matter, I pick a super shoe now. Not always, but mostly that gives me some return, right? So I use a normal shoe that doesn't make me feel my best on other days. And there's a different version of that, which is what you're outlining. But it's a normal back and forth that all of us runners play with the speedy shoes and the non-speedy shoes, and the $300 shoes, which we want to use sparingly, and the $120 shoes, which we can go through multiple pairs and not feel bad about because we put more mileage on them. So, all right. Should we move to the next one?
In a second.
Oh, gosh.
I have one more phrase to say. Not a phrase. But I think it's important for people like this who have a concern that they won't feel the ground. If you're the type that I don't feel fast in something bigger, then you have to do a test. Go to a track and run, I don't care whatever distance, 400, 800, mile, 5K. Run it in the thing you feel most connected to the ground and fast in, and then borrow a buddy's super shoe, and a few days later, run it again. Mm-hmm. And you're going to feel weird, your stride's going to feel clunky, and you're going to be significantly faster and not sore. And then you're going to see, okay, this is why there's a tool for the job. There's a difference between feeling fast and being fast.
Yep.
And race is only about being fast. Training's about feeling good.
It's about speed, baby. All right.
That's right.
That was a good cherry on top, Brakken. Matt Linsky says, this is a two-parter as well. First off, great podcast. I am not a runner, but a surf ski paddler, which is an obscure sport. I'm already wondering why this gentleman is writing in, so this will be interesting.
Or listening in the first place.
Yeah. The cool thing is I can paddle just about as fast as I can run. So a lot of what you discuss translates. Besides, at the end of the day, training is training. Okay, interesting. Every Tuesday night, we have a local race, which is 5 miles and takes me 38 to 42 minutes to compete depending on conditions. It's a very competitive race, so I find myself pushing really, really hard. It is not uncommon for me to average 179 to 182 BPM, which for me is the top of my zone 5. I'm 40 years old. I have heard you say in the podcast that you have a finite amount of all-out efforts per year and you need to use them wisely. I feel like I am going to the well every Tuesday, but now you have me second guessing. Should I back off during these races, or are they short enough to go all out week after week? By the way, I am in South Florida where it's 95 degrees with 1,000% humidity during the race. I am only getting older, and they do hurt more and more each year. This may be the most interesting question we've gotten in 5 years. And Matt, you got to write in and tell us why on earth you listen to us. Because there's not a surf ski podcast out there for you. But either way, we're flattered. Brakken, go ahead. Give us your take on this.
Well, he's right. That isn't crazy. It is crazy that he can paddle that fast. Doing sub 8 minute miles or right around 8 is crazy. But the rules still apply. And if you love racing and if you know you are dialed in, when you race, you empty the tank, then I don't think you need to change that. If you're concerned, then just change the frequency of your race. Give a race a skip from time to time. But if the races are the thing that move your needle and racing hard moves your needle, then all you have to change is what you do in between. This is like that question we talked about with racing. I have an A race in 2 weeks, but I really want to do this other race now. No, you shouldn't do both if optimum performance is what you care about. But if happiness and life goals come into play as well, then you throw out the optimal strategy and you do the one that makes you happy. And that applies here as well. Does racing every single week help you performance-wise? No. But if you love it, keep doing it.
All right. So I'm just going to claim ignorance or stupidity here. And I had to look up exactly the demand of surf ski. So I'm on YouTube watching a video right now. For you guys watching on YouTube yourself, you can see there's a gentleman. It's not necessarily a kayak, but it's somebody paddling through big oceanic waves, it looks like, with a big upper body effort. Is that how you understood surf ski, Brakken?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know the difference between this and, let's say, like all-out kayaking. Do you know the difference, other than this takes place in harsh conditions? Okay.
I think it's a verticality issue.
You mean of like...
Not sitting.
Okay. So basically, if you want to think of this at home, because I can't be the only one who didn't know exactly what this is, like think of like very aggressive kayaking, but not in exactly a kayak, right? You want to call it that? Is that fair?
With my limited knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Matt, I'm sorry. I really am. I don't. But that's what I just saw quickly by looking at YouTube. Now, there's one key thing that you are somewhat forgetting in this equation. And it's the reason why pro-level cyclists can do threshold work 4 days a week if they want and still return for more, and that is the word impact, right, Brakken? So although I almost worry for those pushes more on the mental side, like mentally how often can I push that hard? I worry about that more than the physiological side for you, Matt, because you're not taking a ton of structural damage. You're taking very minimal. Now you're putting out high power output. You're getting a lot of muscle contraction. Your aerobic demands and lactate buffering are all super high and big time demanded, but you're not taking impact. And so, like structurally, I don't really have a problem with pushing pretty hard every Tuesday. I don't think I'd have that many mental efforts for me to go to the well once a week, no matter what the sport was, whether it was the assault bike or a regular bike, or a surf ski, or the rower. I think eventually, like, I'm going to burn those matches. Anyways, so that's where my mind first goes, is like, maybe you could probably get away with it more frequently than us runners can, because you're not taking impact and the pounding isn't part of the equation. At the same time, I think rent will still come due. If you did this like every week for months and months on end, I have to imagine you're going to start falling pretty flat. But I don't know if, like, from like a physiological standpoint, if it wouldn't be possible to go to the well every Tuesday because of the nature of that sport. So that's where my head first goes.
And I just kind of feel for him.
Yeah.
We were talking this weekend about what's the most helpless feeling in sports. And for me, it's upper body, specifically arms and hands, failing out. You can feel it happening, and you know it when it's going, it's gone. And it just feels like smaller muscle groups and upper body muscle groups burn out quicker and recover slower than lower body groups.
Mm-hmm.
And so
100%.
that feeling of being all out in a race that's arm based has to just be really, really nauseating as that starts to burn out and you want to push more. And cardiovascularly, you're ahead and your arms are failing out and they recover slower. It just sounds really demanding. And like you said, mentally taxing to stay on that week after week after week.
Yeah, and I feel like the more isolated the movement, the harder the bonk is too. Like, people think a bonk when you're running is bad, like a bonk in an ultra is bad. Try bonking on a road bike. There's nothing you can do about it. It's even worse than bonking while running up a mountain. I'm telling you, because I've done both. Once you go so finitely in a muscle group, like on the road bike, you cannot come back. You can't generate power. You literally, your wattage can go down in half and it's over. There's no accessing it. And I imagine you can experience the same thing surf skiing like that, I would have to think.
Yeah. It's like rower versus skier. You can row a million different ways to try to get power. There's only a few options with skier.
Right. Have you ever experienced like a true bonk on the bike where you're like, oh my God, I went from 21 miles an hour to 16 and that's where I'm at now?
Yeah, I said it once on here, but my last 100-mile time trial on my bike, I just cracked to the point where if I stood up, I could push like 2 pedal strokes and I had to sit down. And if I sat down, I dropped down to like 13 miles per hour because I couldn't put any amount of power into the pedals anymore. It was just gone, utterly gone.
Like not available. Even if your life was on the line, unavailable. Like, I can't. My body will not put out what I need it to put out. That's what I've experienced. And I think a bonk running is terrible. Don't get me wrong. But I think the reason that you can sort of bleed out slower that way, if you're well trained, is that gravity still does a good bit of the work for you. Gravity doesn't pull you forward on the bike, believe it or not. The wheels sure help, but like gravity isn't part of the equation where running is controlled falling. So the only place that bonk hits as hard as it does on the bike or in other modalities, if you're doing a steady uphill climb and it finally goes, gravity stops working for you as much. But I think it's the gravity equation that always works for us a little bit when we're on feet, even though it always feels like the thing that works against us.
All right. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry.
How dare you?
Sorry about that.
Everything good in the...
Lisa's not here, and there was a knocking on the door.
That's terrible. I actually may have another...
Election people going around.
I may have a knock on my door. They're not supposed to come quite yet, but that's why I wanted to do this earlier today. I got my AC being fixed. It's taking a crap on us, so somebody's coming out to look at it, but they said it's not till 1, so...
Well...
Anyways... All right, should we move on?
Let's forge on.
Let's forge on. Chelsea says, this is through the website as well. The question is for Kirk. On a recent episode, he mentioned he was certified in holistic nutrition. I'm just curious what program he would recommend for holistic nutrition, what program he would recommend for getting certified as a personal trainer. Excuse me. Thank you. The show has taught me a lot. Okay. So for my holistic stuff, I went to a college called Clayton College of Natural Health out of Birmingham, Alabama. My studies were correspondence, so I did it all from home. It was on the very beginnings of when you could do stuff from home, back in like the 2000s, we will call it. That college no longer exists, I hate to tell you. So I went to a college that ended up going under like 5 years later.
That's how you know it was a good
That's
one.
exactly how you know it was good. So Clayton College of of Natural Health. Now, there are a number, and I'll have to study up on this. I didn't know this question was coming. I should have prepped. You can get a number of holistic nutrition or naturopathic certifications online. They're not going to be degrees. I got myself a degree technically in this. And I don't know what the most recent options are. I can look into it. And there's also schools you can physically go to learn about naturopathic medicine and holistic health. But the one I went to doesn't exist anymore. The second part to this, what program would I recommend for getting certified as a personal trainer? It depends how you want to look at it. So for me, I have a degree, right? I went to school for exercise and fitness, and I learned a lot in that schooling. So when it came time for me to get certified, I took the easiest, cheapest certification possible because I didn't really learn anything new through the certification process, right? So basically, I took an ACE certification, which was at the time the least expensive, and honestly, it was the easiest test. And it cost about half the cost of some of the other ones like NASM or some other certifications. So I didn't use the program to learn. I used it to just literally get my piece of paper I could put on the wall because I had a degree. If you don't have a degree and you want to be a bit more thorough, I would probably go NASM, NASM, and they'll put you through like an online program. You'll buy the books. It might cost you about $1,000 and stuff up front. You'll learn through the curriculum, and then you'll take a test or multiple attempts at a test at the end. I got ACE certified initially. Again, a certification was all I really needed. But I think if you want to learn, I would push you towards maybe one of the more in-depth ones. NASM is sort of the gold standard, so I would consider starting there. And if you do research on like the naturopathic holistic schooling correspondence options right now, I'd be curious what you find. A lot of the chiropractic schools have nutrition options like Palmer, Northwestern. I'm forgetting about the one down in the Southwest. But I don't know if you're just looking to do something from home or you're looking to physically go to school, so to speak. So I don't know. Do you think that's a satisfactory answer, Brakken?
I do. I think we're kind of both on the same page that you either pay for a degree or you skimp on a certification and pour the rest into knowledge. Because a degree gets you both, essentially, right? It's going to check the boxes of can I be trusted based on what my paper says, and can I be trusted based upon what I've been taught. A cert can't tell you both. It just says I can be trusted based on what this paper said. Mm-hmm. And so I would find out what your budget is and then fill that budget with the cheapest certification balanced out with the most amount of learning you can get. That's the way I would approach it because most certs are nonsense. You'd be just as well off getting a CPR, getting defibrillated training, and then moving into paying for as many in-person and online courses as you can with industry experts to learn the actual functional pieces you're going to need on the job.
The tough part is generally you're going to need a certification and or a degree to get in the door of most any places, or to just get, if you want to be an independent, to get somebody to trust you off the bat. Like you can't just say, hey, I'm Kirk. I have no reason for you to trust me, but this is what I do. Like good luck getting people to say yes and wanting your help. So the tricky thing is you generally need one of those things to get in the door of anywhere. But once you are in the door, I can tell you, because I've had my own personal training business now since 2010. So where are we at? 2024, where I'm actually coming up on my 14 year in August. Actually, I'm probably at 14 years on the head. I've been self-employed, and I have by far learned way more on the job with my clients, with other trainers, working through other professionals, hands-on than I've ever learned in a book. Sure, I can sound smart because I can call your muscle the right thing and tell you where it attaches and what we're using and why and all those things. But in the grand scheme of things, like I've learned so much more on job site than I would have ever done in a book. And that goes with most professions, but like in the human body and taking case studies, just like you, Brakken, as we coach endurance athletes. Like I learned so much more from my athletes' feedback and then seeing how it applies to a race and then they nail it or they don't. And then taking that, just seeing like the real world applicability. Like you can talk theory of threshold training all you want. Like that's all you're getting out of a textbook. But then how do you apply it to the athlete's training plan and then see it to fruition? That's what going in the gym and working with the clients look like. And so we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but I very much back you up on what you're saying. Like get the real world practical knowledge, but you're going to need something to get in the door. And if you want to look at that simple, that's really how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter Maynard.
Yeah. Yeah, you nailed it. Books teach you what to do. People teach you how to do it.
Yep.
And both need to be present.
Hunter Maynard says, hey, Kirk, question for you that's been on my mind for some time. I have to use the treadmill a lot during the week, and my kid's new school schedule has made it harder for me to get in an AM workout. I have to be home and ready by 6 a.m. That said, I've always found it incredibly difficult to run the same paces on a treadmill that I can hold on road or track. I do threshold reps around 6 to 620 pace per mile, but just to hold 7-minute pace on a treadmill feels like a sprint. I've been doing my treadmill stuff at a 10 to 15% incline for a while to base it more on effort. But do you know why that's the case? Is there a different technique on the treadmill I'm missing? I've been basing treadmill workouts on effort. Is that what you'd do too? It's funny we started with this topic.
Yeah. Got a theme already, Kirk. Yeah, there are some people who are better at treadmill running than others. But there's not a one-to-one correlation for most people between treadmill and outdoor. There are some people that there does seem to be that. Someone we're going to be talking to in the upcoming weeks, Dylan Scott, claims that he is always able to tell what his treadmill fitness says about his outdoor running and that he's within like a small window of pace, indoor to outdoor. Other people like myself are very, very different. But since the goal isn't to be good at the treadmill, it's to use it effectively. You don't need to and probably shouldn't worry about changing your gait to maximize treadmill speed.
Right.
It should be run your outdoor gait at whatever pace that tells you indoor.
And I highly doubt you're inefficient on the treadmill, Hunter. But I highly bet that the calibration is simply off. On the ones I use, both at the gym and then at my house, I'm slower. It's more costly for me to run fast on any of the treadmills I use. I feel I actually hit better metrics outside. So a lot like Hunter's outlining, more notable on my Nordic track than anything. As we know, those are calibrated quite differently, and it seems consistent across the board that they have you going slower than or faster than what it says. If you're having a hard time with this, I mean, I think you can go up to about 6% incline on the treadmill and not really change your flat running mechanics too much. Anything above that maybe starts to change a bit more. So I think we have sort of like a free zone of 0 to 6%. Whereas if you just need to get out, get pacing off the table and work on just effort, which is what sounds like you're doing, I like playing around with that 3 to 6%. 6% is so far from 0 that you have to completely recalibrate your pacing anyways. 3%, you start to play that game of like, am I close enough to flat? I shouldn't be that far off my flat pace. But 6, you start to rewrite it, by 1 or 2 miles an hour, depending on what you're doing. And so on my Nordic track now, Hunter, it's 6%. I don't even mess. If I have a flat workout, but it's pouring out and lightning and I got to get it done right now, I go to my treadmill, I set it to 6%, and I rip at 6, and I base it off of feel. So I don't think it's bad to be doing that. I would try to get off that treadmill as often as possible, though. But it's probably the calibration. You would assume it is as well, right, Brakken?
Yep, 100%. The easiest thing to do is to perform the same test indoor and outdoor. Do an aerobic threshold test or a lactate threshold test or like a 10-minute max duration test, whatever you want to do, indoor and outdoor, and then just have 2 different charts you go off of. That way you're always working off of pace and RPE, and that's the best way to stay in it. Otherwise, yeah, going off just pure RPE is nice, but it feels like you're always guessing. And if you need to have more metrics, like I'm fine with always guessing.
Yeah.
But if you need to see something, then do a zone test indoor and make your own chart.
Yeah, another way would be to like just progress on the treadmill and just progress until you hit a heart rate limiter you've set for yourself, like 180. You keep progressing every 3 minutes, you bump up the pace. I hit 180, shut her down. What speed was that at? Then you go outside and you attempt to do a similar thing over similar duration. Just tighten the screws. I hit 180. What pace was that at? Oh my God. Okay. This was 630 pace and that was 605 pace. It's going to get you in the ballpark at least, right? I mean, conditions aren't going to be perfectly similar, but you got to base it on something. So, all right. Cliff Jenkins. Hey guys, thank you for all the great content. You guys have really helped me on all my long runs this summer. I have a question for the next Q&A session. My training has been very solid this summer. I am averaging 55 to 60-mile weeks as I plan for my 50-miler in October. My concern is this. I am a K-8 principal heading back to the normal school day. I have used the flexibility of summer days to log miles. Should I go do more double days or should I... I'm thinking he meant double. Should I go do more double days or should I log the majority of miles on Saturday and Sunday? I typically get up and run early morning during the school year, getting up around 4 in order to get a decent run in before getting to work by 7. I stand and walk 90% of my day at work. Sorry for the long question. Thanks in advance for any attention.
This is another one of those. What's more important here? Maximum performance or life happiness with a bit of performance? And I, having been an educator, and in a family surrounded by educators, I can confidently say that principal or any sort of school admin is one of the more stressful jobs out there. And it follows you home and the hours never end. And so from a life standpoint, I would not try doubling. You're already going to be burning it on both ends. If you're a good principal, which it sounds like if you're even asking this question, you're attending meetings you don't have to attend, sporting events you don't need to be at in order to show how a leader leads in a school and to be present in your community. You don't want another workout hanging over your head. Do as much of it on the weekend as you can. Sacrifice whatever fitness you have to sacrifice. Get your minimum effective dose during the week and be good at your job and at your family. That's how I would approach this.
I have an athlete I'm working with who is a principal going right into his school year now, and topic has come up. Life stress, time commitment. Summer is the heyday, right? And then it's like, okay, life gets real, and now we have to reassess. Mm-hmm. I agree with you fully with one exception. I think your fail-safe is, I'd hate to say the phrase sucking it up, but I think you suck it up one day during the week. And I don't know if a double is the way I would suck it up more than maybe I get 90 minutes to 2 hours in on my Tuesday where I hit a quality session and I extend the cool down and maybe I push it to after work or maybe I get up at 3:30 that day. But just one stim Monday through Friday, that Tuesday, Wednesday time frame would be fantastic. Yeah. And then get to the weekend. And then in your case, I would probably do like either back-to-back long runs or like a nice big quality Saturday and then followed by like some low-grade time on feet Sunday of shorter duration with like a Monday off so you can get some sleep and be charged up for the week ahead so that when Wednesday comes when you got to get up extra early, you can. You'd probably be a really good candidate for like the Monday off versus a lot of people take like a Sunday off or something. So, but I think for peace of mind, if you, in quotes, sucked it up and just like said, okay, it's my 1 day a week, and then I think you could do an hour commit to the other days of the week, even less, and totally be completely fine. As long as you have that one staple during the week as well, you could do very minimal on your other days and maybe get normal sleep and life balance and those things. So that's what I would maybe think.
I like that. And if you did want to double or didn't, either way, a really interesting route would be to run with the track and cross teams, middle school and high school, once each per week. If you have that ability after school, say, I'm not taking meetings on Wednesdays, I'm running with the team.
Love it.
It would give you instant rapport in the school. The teachers, coaches, students would have more FaceTime with you, and it would also get a workout out of the way for you. So that's another option to do. It would be a very unique position to have a principal running with the team, and I think it would be nothing but positive.
It's a great idea. Creative solutions. if you end up doing that follow-up with us, I'd like to hear how that would go. Next question.
Yeah.
This is probably more directed at you. From Len Ames. Len and I used to work together a few years back. It's great to hear from you, Len. I miss you, man. Len took a little breather from running for a while. He wasn't on it, but I think he's back on it again. So, Len, I hope that's the case. Len.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back, Len. Q&A. Brakken and TJ both endured hernia surgeries and 750,000 hernia surgeries performed in the U.S. every year. What can men do to prevent hernias? Are there exercises or other strategies that can be used to strengthen that area and avoid surgical intervention?
Yes and no. There are two camps, and sometimes they overlap on this, but the first is that all men should be doing pelvic floor work. All men should have really, really good cores. And there's also the other side is that there's a genetic component that some people's basically intestinal lining and everything in that area is just thinner and weaker, and you're going to tear. That's what people in our family were all told independently by all the specialists they not faced, but it kind of feels like you're facing them when you show up with your pants down and they have to inspect you. There's a bit of a face off there. It's that we in our family were all told we're predetermined to have this. It's just a structural weakness we have, and that's why everyone gets hernias in our family, despite training very differently than a lot of other people would train and doing a sport that would strengthen this area. We all rip eventually. So you have the genetic lottery standpoint, and then you have the bulletproofing side, and probably both need to be addressed.
Have I ever told you the most embarrassing moment with my pants down, Brakken?
Oh my goodness. I am very, very excited to hear this.
I was in college, and I was having some pain down there, we will call it, and some swelling. And I was a senior in college, and I'm in the health field, right? I was an exercise science major, which had layover to the nursing students at times. So there'd be crossover in some of the classes. You'd have nursing students in, like, let's say, an anatomy class or a biomechanics class, or I think even chemistry. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Point being is I had something going on down there, and I had to go get it checked out. And I went into the school nurse, and I was like, yeah, I'm having issues down here. You know, can you tell me what's going on? And she easily dissected the problem. And then she says, do you mind if one of the nursing students comes in? They've never seen or experienced this before. And so would it be okay?
They got to see this.
And so in comes a girl that I'm in class with, and she was like one of the girls that I found very attractive and had a crush on-ish, right? Like I noticed her. She sat in front of me a couple rows. And this girl, it was the most horrifying experience of my life, had to walk in, and she didn't want to do this any more than I did. I promise you that. And I'm there in this cold room as like a somewhat insecure 21-year-old, and this woman nurse is like, okay, now, you know, Emily, now grab his testicle and now roll the testicles between your fingers. Now, do you feel that there? Now roll them again. And I'm sitting there like a freaking deer in headlights, and this poor girl is sitting there having the worst time of her life, and we have to see each other in class the next day. It was a horrifying experience. And I wasn't my most impressive given the circumstances and the nerves, so it was just a really bad, blip on my radar. So talking about that, wasn't a hernia. I thought it might have been. That's why I'd gone in. It wasn't that.
That's just a deformity?
No, it was something called epididymitis. I had some sort of like something. So my tubes were kinked. But anyways, it was from sitting on my bike cross-training all the time. So did this
experience...
Actually, I had been injured from running.
Okay.
I was on the bike all the time sitting, and something, because all that, like, our anatomy doesn't sit very well on a bike seat, and somehow something got twisted up in there. That's what happened, we'll call it.
You had a vas deferens issue?
I did. Anyways, what's your question? I'll never forget that day.
Did this experience bond you two? Were you able to laugh about it, or was it like we cannot make eye contact in class anymore?
I don't think we never spoke to start with, and we didn't start after that. How's that sound? It was a larger class.
Okay. It wasn't a bridge.
No, it was not a bridge. It's not a bridge. I did have to work with her friend on a class project.
That's fantastic that it didn't happen to me.
Yeah, it was just an awkward day. Anyways, I don't really remember what you said that prompted that. Oh, pulling your pants down for a doctor or something.
Yeah, hernias.
So,
that's what we're talking about.
Hernias. Just gave me a little PTSD thinking about that day. So the thing is men are more susceptible. And tell me why men are more susceptible, Brakken. Do you know why?
Because we no. So I'll take a guess that just as a pure guess is that we don't have a rev limiter mentally in our lives. We see something, we're just like, yeah, I'll pick that up. And we try it without bracing. And that's the psychological guess I have.
Well, anatomically, we're built to be a little more predisposed as well. So when we are children, before our testicles drop, they're up inside of us, let's say in a cavity, as a baby, an infant, a small child. And as we develop, and especially as we get closer to puberty, our testicles descend out of our, let's call it pelvic floor, into our scrotum, right? And where that happens, there's a weakness in our lining there because there's like a predisposed hole where like a starting point of an issue can be, an inguinal hernia. And so women don't have testes that drop. They don't have holes that protrude to the outside of their body for like human anatomy purposes. And so a lot of times men's hernias can start because of those predisposed holes where our testes drop from. It's like a chink in our armor, so to speak. And so a lot of times pain down there can be as a byproduct of a weak spot. Now, you may not get the hernia in that exact weak spot, but we're actually compromised on some level due to the area where our testes drop from. So a lot of times you see it in men more common than women because, yes, we are more bravado and we choose to do stupid things more often. But a lot of times it can stem back from just our human anatomy as males. And so when he asked that question, it's like, I don't know what to tell you. Did your testes drop? I hope so. So you're already down one here, or two technically. So now what happens, right? And so we're just more predisposed to have weaker pelvic floors than women traditionally. And interestingly enough, our guest in 2 weeks is a pelvic floor specialist. So we'll be able to chat that out and we can probably ask her about hernias as well.
There we go. So I feel like I was failed by our medical system, or maybe by myself, because I didn't do enough research. But when I had my surgery, which was an inguinal hernia, so there you go. Proof that my testes did indeed drop, Kirk, despite what some people online say. Uh-huh. I did not know you could get the safe side, the clean, uninjured side, addressed at the same time while they're already in there. You can order both.
Explain.
It's like a 2-for-1 special, except you pay for the second mesh in the procedure, but they're already in there. You don't have to pay for another sedation and all that stuff. I didn't know that.
Like a preventative
and afterwards,
mesh?
when I'm researching, yes, a preventative mesh.
Okay.
Afterwards, as I'm researching recovery, a bunch of people are like, oh, I'm so glad I got that second one thrown in there right away. And I was just like, what? You can do that? Because the recovery was terrible for like 3 to 5 days, and then it got a lot better really rapidly. But I would have absolutely done that. And now when I do things, my left side was always the side that twinged. I probably had 15 or 20 times in my adult life where I thought I got a hernia, but I didn't. But it just, you get a twinge sometimes, then you Valsalva and see, all right, is anything bulging through? No, we're good. I had several dozen of that, and now I never get that anymore. I have the mesh on that side. It's patched up nicely. When I do get a twinge, it's on the right side. And it's not nearly as bad as the left used to be, but eventually I'm going to blow through there. It's going to happen. And I wish I had just put the meshing on that side, because I feel like now I can push as hard as I want on my left side and nothing's happening. But the right side is now the side I have to be careful with. And I was really frustrated that I wasn't presented that as an offer, especially since the doctor knew my sport habits and my lifestyle habits.
So you feel like now that your surgical side is healed up, that it is more bulletproof than it's ever been?
Yeah, and it's not even close. I've not felt, since it's recovered, I've not felt a single point of discomfort in there. And I used to have it monthly. Something would just talk to you a little bit. Not once since. And there's a noticeable difference. It's flatter. You can tell where it's been shorn up. It just feels solid, where the other side just feels like a normal body. Well, I assume. I haven't touched many normal human male bodies on that side, but that's the way I would anticipate it would feel.
You ever think they get to a point of like preventative mesh for like high odds candidates, where it's like, you know what, if we can schedule this thing just to prevent it, and your profession or your athletic pursuits put you highly likely, like let's just go in there and slap a 4-inch by 6-inch strip in the common areas, and that it may happen. Like, I wonder if that's a thing. Maybe. Anybody know? Probably not, but who knows?
Should be. I would have done that. Knowing what I went through, I would have done it. Start an off season, get your mesh put in, good to go.
Are you ready to move on from that, or do you have other insight on that?
No, let's move on. But just to reiterate that I shouldn't have put any sort of aim or goal on this episode, to be brief, because we're doing a horrible job.
No, we're not. We're nailing this. We've gone more rabbit holey and tangential than this in the past. So, all right, another one from Hunter Maynard. Hunter's an inquisitive guy. He's a student of the sport, so he has a lot of good questions. This is to. I'll let you answer this first, actually, and then I'll give my take. But he says, "Hey, man, after following your Strava for a while, it seems like you really like the concept of a couple of big workouts each week and some easy volume to fill in the rest. I see a lot of guys, though, who prefer the workouts to be more moderate and hit them with more frequency, like we see in the Norwegian, European-style training. I'm currently doing 3 workouts a week, which are smaller in volume, and doing 3 easy days each week in between, with one day being completely off. Is there a specific rhyme or reason to doing one style over the other? Have you ever tried working out more frequently but at a lower stimulus? I'm always looking to learn."
It's a very good question. And I'm going to answer it as if I don't know you, but I know you. Like, I'm answering for you, but I want you to answer afterwards, because I'm just going to give it broad strokes.
Yeah.
First is that you seem to be the type of runner, and there are many out there, where whether you go medium or whether you go hard, you're going to need recovery. Like, you have to dose your recovery fully, whether it's a 7/10 effort or a 10/10 effort. And so if we have to only do X number of workouts a week, let's go big. I'm going to get beat up either way, but I don't have inherent risk going from 7/10 to 9/10, let's say. So let's just do that. Other people seem to be big efforts crush me, but I can recover quickly between moderate efforts. So let's just string as many of those together as possible. So it's like you're in one camp or the other to start with, without even thinking about what scientifically is best.
Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a good stopping point for me right now.
Well, before I answer, you sort of take the more frequent approach as of late you have. And a lot of that has to do with mixed modality work, right? Like, I'm trying to work other machine work and other things. So for you in particular, do you feel like one option is better than the other?
I am a frequency person. I respond well to frequency, and I don't know. I feel like I'm a weird recovery person. I feel like I'm a responder to workouts, but that I lose things quickly as well. So if I'm not doing things semi-frequently, it feels like I stack chips worse. Like, I stack up 5 chips and I have 4 the next time I go to use them. Stack up 5, I have 3. Where if I just stack 3 or 4 a lot, I keep all of them. Say I use the sunburn analogy a lot. Like, don't just go get huge doses of sun and then little or whatever. Like, be consistent. If I get a huge amount of sun Saturday, I am bright red by the end of the day. But the next day I'm fine, and then my tan fades by like Tuesday. Or if I just go in the sun every single day, like, I'll get a little bit of burn each day, but I'm fine the next day, and then I just keep some color. And workouts seem to be the same way with me. If I do something big, I have to recover a lot, and then I feel dull after. So, like, it doesn't seem to work as well for me.
And see, I love the big peaks and valleys. I thrive off of them. For me, it's more about understanding how my body is going to feel and respond in the later stages of anything. That's when any race is made or broken, right? And so for me, getting to the 6, 7, 8 mile of quality session on a Tuesday, or getting an hour into my 5-5 float uphill, which I did 2 weeks ago. I mean, that's an hour of work where even on my float, I was barely dipping below threshold before diving back up into threshold again on my hard bit. And I need to know it, I need to feel it, and I need to be exposed to it. And I feel like the shorter, moderate sessions don't often do that for me, and thus doesn't give me the confidence I need to trust that when I'm on lap 8 of my 5K tomorrow, that I can continue to press because I've done it in training when I've been suffering, and I choose to find out what happens after that. And I don't like to leave it up to chance on the race course. And so for me, it's all about like, I'm familiar with how I'm feeling during the race, and therefore I can embrace it instead of shy away from it. And for me, those moderate efforts don't do it for me. So yes, it's less frequent. I'm doing 2 quality sessions a week, but both are big. And for me, it just seems to move the needle on the racing front more. Physiologically and metrics, does it move the needle anymore? Do you end up with the same tan if you go out in the sun for 20 minutes a day or if you go out for an hour 3 times a week? I don't know. You probably end up with the same damn tan, the same damn fitness. I'm not sure, but I have more confidence in my ability to go out there and endure the sun. And that's what it's about for me.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense.
And
a lot of this is body of work. You mentioned the other day, what did you say?
I was going to say for years until, the recent 5 years, I did a lot of shorter, quicker, lower volume work, and I did some of that more exposed, and I didn't extend things out. And without doubt, I am a case study of one, and then some of the athletes I work with, I am a way better endurance athlete now that I've extended out my quality sessions. And so I'm super biased in the fact that like it worked for me, like hands down, it has made me a better endurance athlete in the 5K and above. And my results will back that up versus the old method, which was shorter quality sessions and more frequent exposure.
Yeah.
Sorry. Say what you're going to say.
Body of work and it piggybacks off that. Body of work and what stage of training you're in plays into this very, very, profoundly. You mentioned something last episode, which was, what's become a 10-mile run, which has become a recovery effort distance for me.
Right.
You can say that. You can say I can work hard and then I can get 8 to 10 the next day, no problem.
Correct.
I can't. If I work very hard, I have arthritis in my surgery sites in my knees. I am recovering slowly right now from those kind of things. And so if I do a 9 or 10 tenths workout, my next day might have to be non-impact or very short and then switch over to non-impact. Where if I do a 7 tenths workout, I can run an hour the next day. And so in order to get my frequency of training in, I just can't go beyond an 8 tenths workout right now. Whereas like, let's say back in my peak of my training in Colorado, no matter what I did to myself, I could get 60 to 70 the next day. That was fine in the mountains. Most of my workouts were 9 to 11 miles roughly on my quality days. Sometimes they'd be 12 or 13, and then I'd get 10 miles the next day.
Right.
That's a different stage of training. I could do bigger workouts and still get stuff in between, and I can't right now. So even if maybe I'd be better the other way, it's not available.
Well, you bring up a good point, is it's not as compromising for me anymore. And if I'm feeling healthy, it's a 10-mile recovery run between efforts, not a 6. And you're exactly correct. And it's, the bulk of my stuff has been 85 total minutes on a Friday for a quality session. Then I go do a low-grade long run the next day on Saturday, right? And it's because that durability piece has up. But I kind of got there by doing this, though, too. It used to hit me harder, and now I've adapted, right? So you can argue both sides of the coin, but I've been blessed with 4 years of consistent training without a major setback, and I think that's the main reason I can handle it. But I'm by no means a high-volume athlete. I've been running 5 days a week, 50 miles a week. I just rarely go shorter than 10 miles when I put my shoes on now. It is what it is. Do with that what you will, right?
And that's probably the answer, right? It's the one that keeps you available.
Yep.
Most of us are not splitting hairs to the point where it's like, am I leaving 0.5% on the table? It's, can I do this again next week, next month, and next year? That's the answer we need to or that's the answer we need to have for ourselves.
Okay. Next question is from Brett Milks. I don't know if you remember seeing this one come through, and for those who watch on YouTube, there's a picture, and it says like 1988, first place in the 100 meters, and then it says 2024, last place in the 100 meters. It says times has changed. So in 1988, the first place finisher, Carl Lewis, ran 9.92 in the 100. In 2024, the last place ran faster than that. Okay, so he's saying, One sec, notification. His question is, what do you think has changed over the years from being a guy who's built like that dude versus a guy who is half the size running at the same exact pace? Something about Tuesday's episode had me thinking, if not my mistake, I think Michael Johnson was also a pretty big dude some crazy times, he says. So what he's asking is, in 1988, Carl Lewis is big and jacked. And in 2004, a guy who runs faster than Carl Lewis, notably smaller, takes last place at the Olympics, but's built completely different. Oblique Seville from Jamaica. Is there any conversation to be had here?
There are a lot of conversations to be had here.
Are there any you're willing to have?
A lot of them. Yeah, well, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit first.
Technology.
1980s was the steroid era. I'm going to start with that. It was the anabolic era. And so people weren't necessarily training harder, but they were receiving a different sort of assist than they're receiving now. Anabolic agents are one of the easiest things to test for right now, where like what we would consider performance enhancing agents right now are more convoluted and have to be used more sparingly and don't give the massive muscle growth side as much as they can work on other pieces in the human body. So just from a striation and density and size of muscle alone standpoint, athletes look different then to now, even at the same size. So that's one thing, and we don't need to go much further down that.
Well, let me ask a follow-up question to that.
I mean, look at Mark McGuire versus the big athletes now.
So would you argue, just based on history and what you know of it, that, I'm not saying Carl Lewis was juicing, we're not going to go there specifically, but like a lot of athletes who maybe participated.
I will. He was.
Okay. Has he admitted it?
No.
Okay. But you do believe during that period of time in the 80s and early 90s that a lot of the athletes at the Olympic Games were using some sort of performance enhancing measure that wasn't being discovered. You do believe that from the time period?
I believe all time periods, yes. I think that was a very anabolic time period.
Okay. So then answer the second part of that question. I'll just let you have this one if you want it. Why is a guy that's notably thinner, less muscular, and let's just say eye test less fit, running faster than Carl Lewis, who eye test is like jacked, back in 1988?
Yeah. Well, and it's simply that eye test doesn't tell the story when it comes to fast twitch muscle fibers.
Agree with that.
You can be born with fast twitch muscle fibers and you can lift them or you can not lift them, and it doesn't change the fact that you have fast twitch muscle fibers. The hardest thing to possibly do in the human body maybe is create fast twitch muscle fibers. All you can do is enhance them, make them bigger. You have them or you do not. And so if you look at countries, different nations train differently and they bring different body types to the Olympic Games. And as a result, you get to see what do the different training methodologies do. And the real answer is not a whole lot different. So muscle mass does not equate to speed. It doesn't mean it can't, but there's no one-to-one correlation there. Even look at like right now, Aaron Knighton versus Kenny Bednarek, running essentially the same 200-meter times, and one is jacked out of his mind, and one is lanky and has smooth muscle rather than really striated, well-formed muscle.
And body fat percentage doesn't necessarily factor into the equation either. Maybe if athlete A carries 2% more and doesn't look like a physique competitor on the start line, doesn't mean what's beneath that is any less effective. It could possibly be more.
Correct.
And then the other thing, milks, is you have to take into account track surfaces. You have to take into account the shoes on the foot. You cannot deny they are more impactful in distance races, but you also cannot deny that they are even marginally impactful in shorter races. And it can be fractions of seconds, but that's what counts in 100 meters, right? You have an example of Carl Lewis wearing loose shorts and a loose top, and Oblique Seville next to him is wearing tight compression tights and a tight singlet that's form-fitting. Like, could that make 1/100 of a second difference right there? Probably, to be honest with you. And then, the photo says nothing about biomechanics. It doesn't say anything about fluidity, how well he got off the start line, all the little things that matter in such a short race to add up. And so you can probably walk through it, but there's certainly, I doubt anybody, I shouldn't say it, but it's less likely that people are using anabolic substances this day and age with the advancements in testing, I would assume. So I think that could be part of it as well.
Yeah. Well, and there's this age-old argument that athletes are getting better. And the answer is it's almost a wash. The athletes themselves are not getting more athletic. They're better trained. Like if you look at the things on earth that are pure metric based, like vertical jump, that hasn't changed much over the years. Top speed a human being can hit hasn't changed much over the years. Mm-hmm. What's changed is all the technique and training that goes into it. The top speed in the 100 and 200 aren't a ton different. They're getting to it faster and holding it longer. Block starts have become way better. Yes, the spikes in the track have improved too, but the methods for training are just more dialed. They're lifting for performance rather than just lifting because power equals speed. And so I don't believe athletes are getting inherently better. They're just maximizing the human limits much more often. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing.
And we don't need to go down this rabbit hole, but you can have the conversation of numbers game. What were there 5 billion people on the planet then, and there's 7 billion now? How more likely are you to find a diamond in the rough? Mm-hmm. How are the program upbringings now from young age to older? The developmental phase is astronomically more exposed to children now than it was in the past. And so you just start playing numbers game, and yeah, we're bound to find a freak in 7 billion people, more likely than we are in 5. We're bound to see talent younger than we used to back in the day because the programming is exponentially more now than it was in the 80s. And so you just combine all of those things with technology on the track and on foot and training methodology, and there you have it. We're going to continue to get faster. The limits are going to be limitless. In 100 years, running 3:27 at the Olympics may be last place. Maybe. Who knows? Now it's an Olympic record.
Well, a great example of this is Yared Nuguse and Roger Bannister. Yared Nuguse and Roger Bannister basically had the same life. That is not true. But exceptional runners who went into medical college, essentially, right?
Sure.
And one came out and had to keep being a practicing doctor, doing his rounds and training with that. And the other took a pro contract out of college and put his dentistry dreams on hold to pursue it. Mm-hmm. And is running massive mileage with all the technology in the world. Roger Bannister worked a full-time job. Like there's a difference here. You can now make a 6-figure or 7-figure year living as a 5K runner or as a miler. That wasn't a thing back in the day. So everything is more conducive to running well.
Yeah. I mean, listen to a podcast with Yared Nuguse. What does he do in the middle of the day? He plays video games and reads books. Stays off his feet and gets ready for his PM training session. That's not a joke, and he's fine admitting that. He reads and plays video games. He has an AM session, sleeps in as late as he needs to, trains, eats, plays some games, takes a nap, repeats at dinner or PM training session, has dinner, and starts it all over again. Versus Bannister going through his studies and then working at the hospital and then everything you outlined. Vastly different days, and those add up over time, right? That sort of recovery adaptation cycle.
Yeah.
All right, I was going to say we're going to do one more, but we're not. I'm cutting us off. We're almost at an hour and a half. Okay. Is that okay with you?
It is. Can I add another piece to that?
Yes, please do. I know it's an abrupt finish, but here we are, folks.
Based on lifestyle, so Steve Scott was one of my idols growing up. He was the American record holder in the miler at the time. He was the first white man, I believe, to run sub 350 in a mile. If not, he was the first American to run a 349 mile. He's a stud, and his book is full of him talking about getting done with a 10 or 12 mile run and just cracking a beer with the boys right away. Finishing running 25 by 400 on the track hard, having a beer. Guys that would sometimes smoke in between races. Like, their lifestyle was vastly different to ours. What wasn't different to ours was their 400 meter ability. Steve Scott was running the same 400 meter times that Cole Hocker and them are running. Mm-hmm. When Centrowitz came through, he was not a faster 400 meter runner than Steve Scott. What he was a professional miler in every sense of the word. Like the metrics, the top end metrics were not any different then till now. Their 800 meter times of the top milers in the world are no different than the 800 meter times of the 90s and the 80s. They are not any different. They're better distance runners now, and they live the life. You don't see pro runners, the Olympic medalists, casually cracking beers after each training session anymore. Mm-hmm. That's not going on. You don't see them. Steve Scott will go out and play 18 holes as his relaxation after long runs. You're not seeing that happen with these guys. It's just a little different lifestyle, but the top end metrics are the same, the exact same.
Times are changing, Brett. Slowly but surely, we'll look back and be like, how did we get here? Chipped away at it. Year after year, decade after decade, right?
Chipped away.
All right. That's it. Anything you want to close with?
She's not listening, but happy birthday, Mira. Our youngest child is 7 today. It's part of why we're recording early as well, because we got some birthday things to go do.
Happy birthday, Mira. She's a real shot of life, that one. She is a spitfire. All your kids are great. That youngest one is going to be a problem for somebody, whether it's you or...
She's the classic young child, youngest.
She's got personality on her. Well, what are you guys doing to celebrate?
Oof. Oh, she has a whole list. She thinks we're going to a hotel pool. She wanted certain colors all over the house. She is expecting many things to occur. So,
big day. You better get going, get prepared then.
Got to go rock it.
All right. Well,
lock in.
Well, thanks for listening, folks. We should have athlete or subject matter expert interviews for you the next 2 weeks. But as you know, these Q&A questions just gnaw at me when they sit in my inbox. And we still have... Oh, let's see what we didn't get to today. Let's just see here. In case you want to...
We've got to still have 7.
We have 7. Nice. We have 7 left, so...
Yeah.
But hopefully this got through most of you through your long run today. So thanks for listening, guys.